Thank you, everyone, for joining Colorado Para's Town Hall. My name is Patrick von Kaiserling, and I'm the Senior Director of Communications at Para. We're excited to have everyone join us tonight online, on the phone, and on social media. And we're here to give you an update about our recently released 2021 annual report, as well as provide some other updates about Para. Most importantly, though, we are here to answer your questions, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. First, let me introduce our panelists. We're joined by Ron Baker and Amy McGarity. Ron and Amy, if you could please introduce yourselves and maybe talk a little about your role here at Para.
I guess I'll start. Thank you, Patrick. I am Ron Baker. I am fortunate to be the Executive Director of Colorado Para. I have been with the organization, it will be 28 years in September of this year. A long-time Para employee, and I've been in the role of Executive Director since September of 2018.
And I'm Amy McGarity. I am the Chief Investment Officer and Chief Operating Officer for Colorado Para. I came over to Para with the 2010 merger with Denver Public Schools Retirement System and have been the Chief Investment Officer since 2017 and the Chief Operating Officer since just 2022.
Great, thank you both. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We're hosting today's event on the web, social media, telephone, and we hope to reach as many members and retirees as possible. So let's go over a few basics for participating on the platform today. If you're watching us online, you're all set. You don't have to do anything. But if you would like to dial in, you can do so by calling 833-380-0713. That number again is 833-380-0713. And if you would like to be placed in the queue to ask a question, you just need to press *3 and you'll be placed into the queue. Again, that's *3 to ask a question on the phone. And if you're on the website, you can ask a question by typing in below the video player. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can type questions into the chat box. And if you need the full recording, it'll be posted on copara.org/townhall shortly. Okay, we've are here first to discuss the 2021 annual report. And the annual report includes lots of important topics and is available on copara.org. You can also look at highlights of that by looking at copara.org/snapshot. And that, well, first let's start with a little bit of the highlights of the 2021 annual report.
Thank you, Patrick. I'll take that question. 2021, we measure our financials at the end of every calendar year, so as of December 31st of a calendar year. So we are really talking about what Para's financial situation was at December 31st, 2021. The markets in 2021 were strong, which helped Para's financial position overall. Our demographics in terms of all the things, retirement, payroll growth, the things that we measure to determine the liabilities of the system, pretty much played out as the actuaries would expect. There were some areas where the organization where we had what they call gains and some areas where we have called losses, but in effect, the net of those were pretty much to a zero as it relates to its impact on Para's funding. Again, the good market year did help us along the path of being better funded and reaching that goal that was put in place as part of the 2018 pension reform legislation to get Para on a path to be fully funded across all of its divisions by 2047. So it was a very strong year in terms of Para's financials moving forward. Again, it is a long-term plan. 2047 is still 26 years away from 25 years where we need to get to. So we need to continue to monitor going forward. But Para is in a strong position because of the markets in 2021. I'm looking forward that the changes that were made in increased contributions and reductions in benefit increases coming out of the 2020 financials paid a positive dividend to Para's long-term funding. And that is really the goal that everyone is trying to reach, both the General Assembly and the Para board, is that Para is a fully funded pension system as of the goal of the 2018 legislation of being there by 2047.
Great. Thank you, Ron.
Maybe speak a bit more to our investment program.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Ron. So I'm going to provide you some statistics associated with our investment portfolio. But again, there is a whole lot more detail in our annual report, which you can find on our website. So if those of you on the web can see the slide in front of you, it will show you calendar year returns for the portfolio net of fees over time. But for the year ending in 2021, Para's investment portfolio earned a return of 16.1% net of fees, surpassing its benchmark return of 13.7%. Over the last 10 years, which is really a better perspective to really judge our performance given our long-term perspective and as investors, the fund has earned an annualized return of 10.9% versus its benchmark of 10.1%, again, net of fees. The value of the total fund increased to $65.6 billion in 2021, up from $58.3 billion at the end of 2020. And Para's funded status at the end of the year was 67.8%.
Thank you, Amy. And that brings us to our questions. And as a reminder, if you are on the phone, you can press *3 to ask a question. If you're on the website, you can type your question in below the video player. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can use the chat box. So our first question is for Ron, and it has to do with the 2022 legislative session and wondering how the 2022 state session will be affecting Para and how the 2021 session did affect Para.
Thank you for the question. There were a number of bills that were passed in the 2022 session. Some were positive for Para, and some, frankly, were positive for the goals of the sponsors of the program, but may have a negative impact on Para's funding. But certainly a all-in-all net positive legislative session for Para in terms of its funding. If you recall, back in 2020, when the pandemic really hit in March of 2020, the General Assembly was dealing with setting the state budget in 2020. And at that time, when the pandemic initially hit, revenues dropped and the state had to balance their budget. They had a $3.2 billion deficit. And one of the ways that they helped balance that budget was they took a direct distribution that was scheduled to come to Para in July of that year of $225 million, and they suspended that payment. It helped, again, set the budget for 2020. The markets returned strongly in the latter half of 2020, and there's been an outstanding question is, would the General Assembly make up that missed distribution that was suspended in 2020? I'm happy to say that in 2022, the General Assembly did pass a bill that is intended to make up that payment that was missed in 2020. There was not an inclusion of the investment earnings that were earned over those dollars during that window of time. It was difficult for the General Assembly to really pick up of what had been earned as a go-forward basis through the end of the year. So Para did receive a backfilling of that $225 million distribution in July 1st of this year, and also the intended July 1st distribution for 2022 as well. So the General Assembly did make it whole. They preloaded some additional dollars that were sitting in a cash fund. They will be taking that pre-funding back in the next legislative year, plus some additional dollars. So overall, a very positive impact for Para. I'm excited about the fact that that bill was passed on a bipartisan basis, on a very strong bipartisan basis. That the House passed it like 57-7 out of the 65 members, which means Republicans and Democrats felt it was important to backfill the promise to Para, and it passed unanimously in the Senate of 35-0. Again, both parties understanding the need to ensure that Para's payments are made going forward through time. So a very positive impact of that aspect of the 2022 session. There were also a couple of other bills that were passed in the session, which expanded the ability for retirees to work in retirement without limitations. There was a strong teacher shortage in the state of Colorado right now coming out of the pandemic, and the General Assembly felt it was important to allow retired teachers the option to come back and work full-time without a reduction in their para benefits. Well, that is a good public policy from the perspective of the General Assembly to ensure that our classrooms have teachers. It does have an impact on para that is increasing of the unfunded liability. It is not a major increase. It's not something that is going to put the system in dire straits, but it does cause increased liabilities to para going forward. But all in all, a very positive session for Colorado Para coming through the 2022 session, and from the perspective of us here at Para's staff and the Para board, the fact that the General Assembly was able to backfill that missed suspended payment back from 2020. Took a couple of years, but that's the way sometimes work in politics. PARA came out of the 2022 session in a better position than it was going into the 2022 session, and that is important to the membership going forward.
And Ron, we have another question for you. Paul online would like to know, how is the current rate of inflation going to affect future payouts?
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for listening in on a nice summer night. The rate of inflation will not have a real strong impact on PARA's on future benefit payments, other than what it means in terms of the market. And I would ask certainly Amy to speak more about how the investors in our program think of this recent spike in inflation. The PARA benefits are set in statute, and the base amount that is being paid to the PARA beneficiaries is not going to change based on inflation. The amount of increase that we pay as inflation hedge, the annual increase, is also set in statute. So it is not moved according to what inflation is. It is a set amount. So going forward, the benefits of PARA are not directly impacted by what is happening with inflation. Certainly, inflation is part of the broader view of what happens in the investment markets and PARA's long-term view on those, or what people get in terms of increases in their jobs. But in terms of what we are paying out in benefits, or what we're going to increase benefits by, the inflation amount is not directly affected by that. And I certainly would ask Amy to speak a bit more to how inflation is viewed in the investment markets.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. I'm happy to talk about inflation and how we invest the portfolio broadly. And then if there are follow-up questions, I'm happy to try to answer those as well. But broadly speaking, our portfolio is invested with a very long-term perspective. We're talking 10, 30 years. So, we call it a strategic asset allocation, and that is how we operate the overall portfolio. So we manage over $65 billion on behalf of our members and beneficiaries, and we manage it in a very strategic fashion, and that is dictated by the Board of Trustees. And they form that strategic asset allocation through an asset liability study, which they conduct with their third-party advisors, investment consultants, and actuaries. And so what that enables us to do is manage the portfolio with a very long-term perspective. So we don't believe in timing the markets. So, you can imagine in March of 2020, when the pandemic first really came to light, many investors were changing their asset allocation or changing their investments to, sort of deciding that the market was going to fall apart, et cetera. And by the end of March, really the market started to rally. So PARA's perspective is, we're not going to make a call on the markets. We're not thinking as short-term investors. We're thinking for the very long term. And so with that perspective, we think about inflation in the context of decades and multiple decades. And so when we think about inflation in the context of our strategic asset allocation and how that flows through our expectations for each of our asset classes, that is all taken into context from a longer term perspective. So inflation, while it's definitely higher now than it has been in, let's say, the last decade, it may not be out of context relative to the last 30 years or 20 years. So when the board's advisors present their expectations for future returns for asset classes, they're taking into consideration those inflation expectations. So even though we've experienced really, really low inflation in the last several years, this current higher inflationary environment isn't out of the realm of expectations in the board's strategic asset allocation decisions. What does that mean for our investment portfolio? It means that we're exposed to the markets. So if a company has pricing inflation, so for example, an energy company, which we've seen a lot of inflation in the commodity space, a lot of us are experiencing higher prices at the pump. And so those companies their stock prices are increasing. They're seeing higher revenues. We definitely have exposure there. So we have exposure to those higher prices as it relates to revenues, whether or not those companies are able to translate that into earnings, because they're also seeing higher labor costs and other input costs. That is another that is another consideration. But so generally speaking, the portfolio has a higher correlation to those inflationary impulses. So you would see that we would be higher exposed. Our companies or the investments that we are allocated to would see some correlation with higher inflation. We are also exposed to fixed income or bonds, and we can talk about that if anyone has a question as to why we are in the bond space. But inflation, generally speaking, is not positive for bonds, as that there's a fixed coupon associated with bonds. And so if there is inflation, the dollars that you're receiving in that coupon are worth less. And so that could be negative for bonds. And we are seeing that. We're seeing alongside negative equity returns, we are seeing negative bond returns. And despite that, the board's strategic asset allocation is designed to perform well over the long term. So though we have seen very strong returns over the last several years, the returns that we're seeing right now in the public markets are not out of the realm of what we would have expected, even with the strong inflationary environment that we might be seeing right now. So I guess all this is to say, a very long answer to your question. We are invested in the markets to the extent that companies are able to secure pricing power due to inflation. We are experiencing that, and we are exposed to that. We are also exposed to some of the downsides of inflation, such that you may be experiencing as a consumer. But again, it's all designed to work over the very long term. But thank you for that really important question.
Thank you, Amy. We're also seeing several questions online about Social Security, and Heather would like to know, how does Social Security impact PARA if many of your earnings prior to working for a PARA employer were with a Social Security type employer?
Really appreciate the question. That is a really interesting dynamic that works between a public pension system and Social Security. PARA's benefit is not at all impacted by Social Security. So the amount that you earn under a PARA benefit, whether or not you have prior Social Security earnings or not, is not impacted. But the amount of what you get out of Social Security can be impacted by the fact you have a PARA benefit. If you don't have a fair number of quarters in Social Security, there is a reduction in your Social Security by the fact that you are also receiving benefit is not impacted. It does. The reason that is a federal limitation that has been put in place to say that if you are receiving a benefit from another source, your Social Security is reduced. That is not something that PARA can impact moving forward. It is something that at the federal level, there have been bills introduced any number of years going forward to remove those reductions in Social Security, because folks who are in public pension systems are saying we have earned Social Security and we don't feel that it should be reduced over time by the fact that I have a public pension. But where this has got hung up every year is any increase in the amount that is paid out in Social Security has to be paid for in some way to the federal government side. And the Congress and the Senate at the federal level have not been able to come up with a solution as to what the pay would be to make up for the difference of adding more dollars to what's being paid out in Social Security. So that your Social Security benefit is impacted by being in PARA. And that really is very, very specific to the person, very specific to how many quarters you have in Social Security. And we would ask anybody that is getting close to retirement to reach out to your Social Security office to find out exactly what the impact to you would be on your Social Security benefit by the fact that you've been working under PARA-covered employment.
Ron, while we have you on the call, Cynthia online has a question about how will PARA change over the next few years and into the future?
So that is absolutely a great question. And I think from the benefit plan perspective, I think the benefits that we provide will stay the same. That is something that's set by the General Assembly. But PARA as an organization, it is very important to all of us as staff of the organization and the PARA board In fact, their strategic plan, the Para Board is looking, what is this organization going to be a decade from now? In fact, their last strategic plan was that framework. Imagine Para 10 years from now, because we've been an institution since 1931, and we need to continue to move forward with the times. And I see Para becoming very competitive in terms of perspective of being where the member needs us to be in terms of information gathering. Certainly, this is not a world, your grandfather's pension system, which we would send out reports to you every so often and operate in a much, I would call it, sleepier environment. We as an organization are a financial institution to our membership. We ought to be on par with other financial institutions. Our goal shouldn't be to measure ourselves against what happened at the Washington State teachers system this year, or what did Utah do. We really need to look at what are the services that we are providing and the customer service that we provide that is comparable to other financial institutions. Do we have a mobile app? Are we able to allow people to transact in a way that meets them where they are? Are we providing content to people that is on demand where they need it to be? That's what I would see Para morphing into in terms of how we deliver services. The benefits we provide are not set by Para staff or by the Para Board. That is the General Assembly. We are the administrator of that decision. But we need to continue to move forward as an organization and ensure that the members who are part of this program receive absolutely top quality customer service and have the same level of interaction with us as you would any high-end financial institution.
Great. Thank you, Ron. And as Ron mentioned, we're always seeking to modernize how we interact with our membership. So we have a quick poll for everyone to respond to. If Para had a smartphone app that allowed you to see important account information, submit paperwork, and contact us directly without calling, would you be interested in downloading that? Press 1 if you would use a smartphone app to do business with Para. Press 2 if you aren't sure. And press 3 if you would not want to use a smartphone app to do business with Para. Again, would you use an app to do business with Para? Press 1 for yes, 2 if you're unsure, and 3 if it's a no. And we'll share those results later in our town hall meeting. All right, and let's go back to our questions. Online, Jennifer has a question about what percentage of our investments are ESG or impact funds?
Well, I'll take that one, Patrick. Thank you so much for the question, Jennifer. It's a question that we get so often. I'm really glad that you asked it. So there are two avenues that I would like to answer the question. So we have internally managed funds. These are funds that are managed by Para staff, people working in the Capitol Hill building, or at home, et cetera, managing Para funds. That is comprised of roughly 60% of our overall portfolio. So the majority of our assets are managed by Para staff. And then there are assets that are managed by external managers. What I would characterize our exposure to ESG funds is that generally all of our assets are exposed to ESG. What I mean by that is to say that all of our funds are managed to achieve the best risk-adjusted returns that we expect. And to the extent that those risk-adjusted returns are influenced by any factor, whether it's environmental, social, or governance types of factors, those are taken into consideration when choosing our investments, whether internal or externally managed. So I would actually guide you to review our stewardship report, which is available on our website. And the fifth annual iteration of that has just been released in June. And it really does talk about our overall philosophy and how we manage the portfolio, and specifically goes into ESG factors and other influences that might interest you, such as fossil fuels, lower costs, any sort of corporate governance objective or idea. We lay them out within that report, and in hopes that we can communicate with our stakeholders to try to get across our overall philosophy on investing the portfolio, because we do recognize that there are over 600,000 beneficiaries associated with Colorado Para, and multiple more stakeholders involved that have different opinions on how we should invest the portfolio. And so after you take a look at that report and get your opinions around that, we look forward to your feedback on how we can continue to enhance that report and that engagement. In addition, I would tell you that we do have a Facebook Live event that we are looking to schedule sometime in August. So please watch our website for more details there, wherein you can engage with our Director of Investment Stewardship and her team to talk about how Para thinks about investing the portfolio and what our philosophies are behind it and how we seek to add value to your retirement and the stakeholders across the state. So thanks for that question. It's really an important one, and I'm sure one that many people have.
Thank you, Amy. Ron, I believe the next question will be for you. Tim would like to know the percentage of full funding for Para improved from 62.8% in 2020 to 67.8% in 2021. How much does the funding level have to increase in order for there to be an annual benefit increase?
Thank you for the question. I think that is, unfortunately, the measurement is not on funded ratio. It's a little bit more in the weeds details in terms of contributions coming in versus the ability to pay down the unfunded liability over the window of time. So broadly stated, we are a number of years out on a projected basis. As we look at this going forward and see where we stand and look at if future assumptions are hit properly, we are probably a few years out from the fact that we will have reached the triggers we talk an awful lot about in the organization about the auto adjust, is when we've reduced the amount that we pay retirees in annual increases and the increase in contributions. Those have happened a couple times in the last few years. The other side of that coin is when we get to a better position in terms of funding of dollars coming in, we'll be able to reduce the employee contributions, reduce the employer contributions coming into the system, and then begin to increase the amount of the increase giving out to our retirees. Under our current projections, that is not set to happen for a few years yet. So it is not imminent. We are really in a position that the good year in 2021 from the investment markets has certainly helped that situation. But again, the goal of the legislation that was passed in 2018 was to be fully funded by 2047. So we had a $30 billion liability at the time that legislation was passed, and it just will take time for us to chip at that stone and bring that unfunded liability down to a position in which we can begin to see a reduction in the contribution burden of both our members and employers, and be able to return back some of the reductions in the annual increase going forward. But I really do thank you for the question. We talk a lot about the overall funded status, but the math underneath it's a little more complicated than that. But I would say that we are at least on a projected basis a few years out before we would consider that, and that is if all assumptions are hit. If the markets are choppy like they are in 2020, that might move that date back even further still. So it is, unfortunately, I don't have a great positive answer that just around the corner we'll be able to restore some of the benefit reductions, but it certainly is in the long-term future of what is being projected forward that these could be something that could happen in the next couple of years.
And Ron, while we have you on the screen, Nikki would like to know, how does it work if you go from one para employer to another? Are your benefits treated separately or added together?
Nick, that is a great question. One of the great values of the way that the public pension system is set up in Colorado is that it is a public employees system. It is not a teacher system or a public or a state employee system. In a number of states, there are separate systems. California has CalPERS for the public workforce and CalSTRS for the teachers. So if you were to work in the school district, work in the teacher system, and then take a job in government in the state of California, you begin building a separate pension. Under PARA, because there are state employees, teachers, units of local government, the rogue judges, if you move from one PARA-covered employer to another, your benefits continue and move forward in time. It's like you never left the one employer. Your service credit continues to grow. The salary used to calculate your HAS just moves right along with you. It really does allow the free flow of public employment across all of the channels of public employment in the state of Colorado, predominantly state work and work in school districts. But so you're not impacted by moving. As long as you stay within an employer that is covered under PARA, your benefits move with you and continue to grow as if you'd stayed at one employer and had not moved. It is a nice system in PARA to have all of them under one retirement system for that free flow of movement across different venues of state employment, of public employment.
Hey, Ron, we have another process question for you. Caroline would like to know, can you add funds to a PARA account that's not from your employee wages, but perhaps a personal check or cash? Is there a time limit to invest with PARA? And what's the difference between PARA benefits and a 401k?
Wow, that's a fair number of questions. So
A lot of
I'll try to do
questions.
my best. And if I miss any, please, Patrick, help me, that if I miss something there. If you take the defined benefit program, the plan, the sort of the larger plan of PARA, there is not a method in which you can augment the contributions that are coming into that plan. Those contributions are set in statute. You provide service for a public employer. There is a percentage of your pay that is taken into PARA. So you cannot augment the base system of PARA with additional dollars onto your account. There are some nuances to that if you're buying time of different employment, but broadly you cannot say, well, I'd just love to be able to just drop dollars into the PARA investment system and have it grow my PARA account at a defined level. We also offer, though, voluntary investment vehicles, which are our PARA 401k program, which is offered to every employee who's under PARA covered employment, and additionally a 457 program that is offered to employees of employers who have opted into that program. That is a method in which you can save additional savings going forward, but it wouldn't really be in a matter of those would be tax deferred savings, not putting tax dollars in, although if you did it with a Roth in. So kind of a broad answer, there's not a way to augment that benefit on the DB side moving forward. I think the other point to remember is the question of the difference between defined benefit and defined contribution. Defined benefit broadly is, think of it as your dollars are put in, they're invested professionally over time, and then at retirement eligibility, you return those contributions in a monthly amount that you cannot outlive. And if you have and you define a beneficiary, it is a joint life. For the life of both of the people defined, the benefit the amount of payments cannot be outlived. In a defined contribution plan, every dollar that you save is your dollar or your dollars. You are investing those dollars, at least making the investment decisions yourself. And then at retirement time, the pot of money that you have that you've earned over time is what you will use to live on in retirement. That does have the perspective of you have to determine how much to take out of that each month. It is possible that if you're fortunate to live longer than into your hundreds, 90s into your hundreds, you might outlive your dollars. In a defined benefit program, you can't outlive the dollars that you have earned. And you get monthly payments back of the dollars that you paid in that have been invested for you professionally over time that cannot be outlived. And there was a third question in there, and I missed it, Patrick. And if you could help me, I apologize for letting that middle question get away from me.
So the middle question was, is there a time limit to invest in PARA? And I think the question is, do you have to be working for a PARA employer, or can you do that at different stages in life?
You do have to be working for a PARA employer. If you retire under PARA and you return back and work after retirement under PARA, you can also contribute additionally to our voluntary savings programs, the 401k and potentially the 457. But there is no time limit in terms of doing it, but you can only contribute to PARA if you are working as an employee in public service.
Okay, and we have a similar question, Ron, that is, what is the difference between the defined benefit plan and defined contribution plan, and can you switch between the two?
I could kind of walk through a bit of the difference between the two earlier. The defined benefit, again, being a benefit that is earned over time and that you cannot outlive. The defined contribution is really the building a pot of money in which you then are in control of how you take those fiduciaries on the other side. In PARA's program, there are a few employers and employees, therefore, who work for those employers who have the option to choose whether they want to choose the defined benefit program as their primary retirement vehicle or our defined contribution plan as a retirement vehicle. Within a 5-year window of making that choice, in years 2 through 5, you do have the ability to change your mind as to which plan that you're in. You don't automatically, you come from a kind of go forward basis. If you chose defined contribution at the start and a year in you decide you want to be in the defined benefit, you would be moved to the defined benefit program. Your year in the defined contribution program would not be moved to the one program, nor would it if you were in the defined benefit and you decide to defined contribution, would the money automatically move. But your choice of where your contributions go does happen. Is it in a very small window? It is the years 2 through 5 of your time of having that choice. Once you get past 5 years, if you haven't made the decision to move from one plan or the other, you don't have the ability to make that choice.
Thank you. Amy, the next question is for you. Elizabeth would like to know what the impact of the economic downturn has been on PARA.
Great question, Elizabeth. I know that's in the forefront of everyone's mind. So I mentioned earlier that PARA is a strategic long-term investor. So what that means is the board establishes a very long-term perspective and gives us guidance, or pretty strict rules, to be honest, as to how we can allocate the portfolio. And we have exposure to global equities or stocks from around the world, bonds, fixed income, and then we have also exposure to private asset classes such as private equity, real estate, and alternatives. And so the PARA portfolio is very, very diversified by design, and again, designed to outperform over the very long term and provide returns that will sustain the benefits for PARA beneficiaries. So when the PARA board conducted their last asset liability study in 2019, the asset allocation associated with what the board determined was appropriate resulted in an expected return of 7.25%. So how does the economic downturn impact our portfolio? Well, we're invested in the markets. We are not timing the markets by any means. So as I mentioned, the board has given us guidance as to where we should be allocated. And while we have some minimal discretion as to where we're allocated just based on market movements, we're going to be invested in those markets. So as global equities and fixed income and generally markets across the board are being impacted in a negative way so far in 2022, we are also being impacted. However, that's not out of the realm of possibility that the board considered when they established that 7.25% return expectation, which is used to discount the liabilities and results in the long-term funded ratio for the plan. So while 2022 has so far not been positive for investors, and no one likes to be associated with those markets and those returns, it's not a black swan event or something that was outside of the realm of expectations. So while we're being impacted, it is within the considerations of the board's strategic asset allocation and not out of the realm of possibility. That said, we do expect that over decades, 10 to 30 years, that portfolio, that as it's designed, will outperform and produce a return in the realm of about 7.25% as of 2019, when that was adjusted at that time.
Thank you, Amy. And as a reminder for those of you on the telephone, if you'd like to ask a question, please press *3, and that will put you in the queue to ask a question. Earlier in the meeting, we asked you for a quick poll on whether or not you would use a smartphone app to do business with PARA. Those results are in. 63% of you said yes, you would use an app to do business with PARA. 16% were unsure, and 21% said no, they would not use a smartphone app. So thank you very much for that feedback. We appreciate that. Certainly helps us inform how we're moving forward with our member communications. Okay, and that takes us back to questions. And Casey wants to know, if PARA is in good shape, why do we need to increase the employee contribution by 5%, and when will that end?
Casey, that is a fantastic question. The reason for the increase in the employee contribution this July it is due to the financial situation that came out from the 2020 financials. And as I mentioned before, the pension legislation that was passed in 2018 had a component in it which caused had in automatic triggers, which would be increases in contributions and reductions in benefits if PARA was behind, I call behind the goal of being fully funded by 2047. When we did our measurement in 2020, the math that is used to make that measurement as to whether or not we were receiving the contributions needed to ensure that we reach full funding across all divisions by 2047 didn't meet the goal, and which caused this increase in member contributions of 0.5%, increase in what we were receiving from our employers of 0.5%, and a reduction in what we're paying our benefit recipients by 0.25%. So in effect, we took more money in and paid less money out to ensure that we're balancing out the idea of being fully funded by 2047. The fact that it was for 2020 gave everybody a time to budget for the fact that there will be increased contributions and changes in the benefit amount going forward. But that is the reason. Coming out of the 2020 financials, in which the PARA board had done what's called an experience study, looked at the assumptions of the plan and made modifications to the assumptions, we need to make changes in terms of mortality. People were living longer. We've seen less growth in public payroll over time in the state. We've seen less increase in headcount. All of those factors played into what caused the increase that's going to happen this July of 2022 is because of the financials of 2020. As we measure 2021, I should have mentioned that, and I do apologize. We are not going to be triggering an increase in contributions in 2023 or a reduction in the amount of the annual increase paid to our retirees in 2023 based on the market conditions of 2021. So the General Assembly put in place a mechanism in 2018 that allows the dollars coming into PARA and the dollars flowing out of PARA to automatically adjust based on the economics of the system at the year end, and which is designed to keep PARA on this path of reaching full funding by 2047. So that's why we are increasing contributions this July. It's based on what our financial condition was back in 2020. Is it permanent? No. If we previously talked about, if we reach a point in which we are ahead of the game and our contribution burden coming in would get us on a path to pay our unfunded down faster than 2047, we'd be able to reduce the contributions coming in by our members and employers and increase the amount that we're able to pay in increases to our retirees in any given year. It's called an auto adjust. It really is a corridor to keep the system in place. It is a very powerful piece of that legislation because the benefits are set by the General Assembly. Without this automatic movement of benefits and dollars coming in, PARA would need to come to the General Assembly every year and ask for additional contributions and reductions in benefits. And the General Assembly felt that that is not the fastest way and the most effective way to ensure that we are on a path to be full funding. So again, long answer to the why is based on our condition in 2020, and whether it is permanent, no. But will it change in the near term? No. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we are years out from being able to reduce the contribution burden or increase the amount being paid out to our beneficial recipients.
Thank you, Ron. Amy, I believe the next question is for you. Chad wants to know, is there a process to move dollars from a traditional PARA 401k into a PARA Roth 401k? And we're also getting a couple of questions about what happens to your cash balance in your account if you leave state employment.
Thanks for those questions. I'm not sure if I am the best suited to answer all of them, so I will lean on Ron to talk further about them. But generally speaking, many of you hopefully know about our 401k, 457 defined contribution opportunities for participants and members of Colorado PARA. We find these really great opportunities for participants and members to supplement their retirement savings alongside of the PARA defined benefit plan. So, we have designed a program that we think is quite compelling as it relates to investment options and fees that allow people to really save for retirement and really prepare themselves for what they see their retirement future to look like. So if you have questions about defined contribution, 401k, 457, we would encourage you to contact PARA we think a very compelling value proposition in that regard. So alongside of a traditional 401k, which is generally pre-tax contributions for retirement savings, we do offer a Roth 401k option for employers who choose that. So you may or may not be seeing that depending on who your employer is, because it's a payroll function. Your employer needs to choose that, but it's an after-tax contribution. So if you foresee yourself at a higher tax bracket later in life, maybe you want to contribute after tax today so that you don't have to pay tax on that growing income later in retirement. So, it depends on where you are in your career and in your expected tax burden as to whether you would choose a traditional 401k versus a Roth 401k. But we do offer both and are happy to help you see if your employer is participating in that, and or if maybe we can contact your employer to participate if they're not currently participating. And Ron, I don't know if you can help with the next question. I don't know, PVK, maybe you could repeat that second part of that question?
Sure. The question was, what happens to your account if you leave state employment?
That is a fantastic question. Your account stays in PARA unless you ask to have it returned to you in a refund. And one of the really great values of the PARA plan design that the General Assembly put in place back in 1995. So for 30 years, this has been a feature of the PARA plan, is that if you leave your money in PARA, it will continue to earn an interest amount. That is the amount set each year by the PARA board. It's currently at 3%. So those dollars that you have will continue to earn a guaranteed 3% on those dollars. There's a matching dollar figure that is in place as well that is either 50% of those contributions or 100. It gets to 100% of the contributions when you reach retirement eligibility. The idea back in 1995 was that as an understanding that not all members, all people in public service work an entire career in public service. And you want to ensure that somebody who works a career in which they leave public service doesn't have their benefit or the value of their benefit really reduced over time. So PARA has this feature called a money purchase. When you reach benefit, if you leave service now and you are not benefit eligible, if you leave your money in PARA and you age into the age in which you would be able to get a benefit, PARA does two calculations. They do a calculation under that formula benefit that all people in DB might know. How long have you worked times the multiplier times your salary. That comes up to a number, and we also compare it to this idea of taking those dollars that you contributed, plus the interest that was earned on those dollars, plus the matching amount applied to those dollars. Take that pot of money and annuitize it in a monthly benefit that you cannot outlive, which allows that compounding of interest and match over time to ensure that a person who left public employment 10 years ago and ages into retirement is not having the value of their benefit calculated on a 10-year-old salary that has been reduced over inflationary times, but over a pot of dollars that is more reflective of where they stand now. So you don't lose your money if you lose it. It is your dollars. They will always be your dollars. You can determine that you would like to take them out. You can do them what's called a refund, which is you get all those dollars. You'll have to pay the tax consequences of them. You can do a rollover, put them into another tax-deferred vehicle. But the dollars you contribute to PARA and the dollars that are earned in terms of matching and interest are your dollars, whether or not you're in public employment or not. You never lose a single dollar that you've put into PARA the moment you leave public employment. It becomes your decision as to whether to leave it in PARA and have that be available to you at retirement eligibility age, or whether you want to then take those dollars and move them into another retirement vehicle as you move on to another position that is outside public employment. But that's what happens. You never lose the dollars that you put into PARA. They are yours. It is your decision what to do with them going forward.
All right. Ron, while we have you on the screen, we're getting a question from Lori, who would like to know if the ability for retirees to work full-time only applies to teachers.
Lori, thank you for the question, and it is a nuanced answer. So in rural school districts, we're going to get into some of the details of the legislation. In the rural school districts, there are additional positions beyond teachers who can work additional hours. They are cafeteria workers, some paraprofessional speech, hard to fill positions as it was described in the bill language. In the rural school districts, in the non-rural school districts, the bill that was passed that has a 2-year window, it is focused on teachers. So depending on where your work is, there are additional positions that are brought into that working without limitations. But in the metro districts, the non-rural school districts, that bill was focused predominantly on dealing with the teacher shortage that they're seeing coming out of the pandemic. So you'd have to know what district you're working in and what rules apply to you, but it is very narrow number of positions outside of teachers in the rural school districts that can also work without limitation of the 110 days.
And we have a question online from Deborah about what happens to your account if you haven't retired, but you're still actively working. Deborah, you are live with our town hall call.
Good evening. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Good. I was wondering if you are not actively working and have not retired yet, what happens to your PERA account?
Yes, if you're not actively working and not retired yet, your account is earning. You're not growing the account in terms of contributions coming in because you're not in public employment, but that account is earning at currently 3% interest every year, compounding moving forward. You can't keep it in the PERA account forever. At some point, there are kind of upper limits of when you need to take a distribution. So I believe there's 72.5 going forward. But you can leave your money in PERA until you're ready to draw that benefit. Although at a certain point, there are federal limits in which they want you to start drawing that benefit because it is tax deferred money. And to be frank, they want you to start drawing the money so they can begin to pull taxes on those dollars. But the money sits here and continues to grow until you pull the trigger to decide to draw a benefit, or as I mentioned previously, take the money out and move it into some other vehicle, either another tax deferred vehicle as a rollover, or just taking the money and taking the tax consequences of rolling those dollars out.
And Ron, we have a follow-up question from Diana asking, are there medical plans included or offered through PERA's benefits?
Yes, thank you. That we offer a voluntary healthcare program to benefit recipients of PERA. The program is called PERAcare. So when you are in retirement, you have the option to choose, again, on a voluntary basis. It's your decision as to whether to choose our program or not. A number of healthcare options. We offer a few carriers on both the health end, also on the dental end, and on the vision end. For active employees, we offer a PERAcare program, but that is more of an opt-in from the employer. Do they want to be part of our program? And it's more of a pass-through. It is a very small part of our program, but as a retiree, you do have access to a program that we call PERAcare. And there are a number of different options available and plan designs available to you if you're interested in taking it. I'd certainly take a look at whether the premiums and the plan designs match the needs that you have, because again, it is a voluntary and there are other options out there. We think we offer a very good program, but you should obviously shop around to find the best program that fits your needs.
Okay, and Ron, we have one more question for you. Michael on Facebook would like to know if all the changes, they've all been really tough, and he's wondering, in the end, will it be worth it to have a PERA membership?
Michael, that is a great question. I would say yes, it is. Being a member of PERA, the plan design of the PERA retirement system, as I mentioned, that feature that is fairly unique in our industry of having a program that both benefits you in terms of replacement income in retirement, whether you are a long-term employee or whether you worked for a smaller window of time in public employment. The idea behind a system like PERA is to provide income in retirement. The design of our program is very strong. And yes, there are additional contribution burdens being applied right now to pay down this unfunded liability that's built up over time. But honestly, a benefit that you cannot outlive. We are a replacement for Social Security versus a supplement. And we offer a far better benefit in which you can earn in terms of dollars paid out to you in retirement than is offered through Social Security. So I would say, yes, being a para member is got a value whether you're in the program for 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, because there are options available to you to have income that you cannot outlive. We mentioned the access to a retiree healthcare program. There are a lot of benefits of being in the para program. Understanding that the contribution amounts that we are taking now to fund the program and to pay down unfunded liability are higher than Social Security, but the benefit is better than Social Security. And para has been around since 1931, and I think that the commitment of the General Assembly has been strong for almost 90 years now plus to the public workforce of the state of Colorado. So yes, being a para member is a good thing, with the absolute caveat, or not caveat, but with the absolute recognition of knowing that the contribution burden has grown. But it is still a very good value to be a para member.
Thank you, Ron. And that's about all the time we have for tonight's questions. If you have questions about your specific para account or buying service years, you can contact our customer service center at 1-800-759-7372. You can also send us a secure message through your member portal on copara.org. And if you would like to stay in touch with us and follow us for general updates, you can follow our social media, subscribe to our blog, or visit us on paraontheissues.com for regular updates on para activities. And to stay up to date on all things para, you can certainly sign up to subscribe to our newsletters, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. And thank you very much for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you for everybody for taking the time on a nice summer evening to talk to us. We really do appreciate it.